先係真正嘅武道館。
你唔好再嚟啦。
On a quiet morning in a small home, a genius teen named Ryo Narashima sat down for breakfast with his parents and younger sister, Natsumi. But the calm didn't last. Moments later, both his parents were found dead at the table. And the killer was Ryo himself. The shocking murder sent waves through the community. Ryo was arrested on the spot and thrown straight into prison. No one knew why he did it. No one could explain how a gifted student could turn into a killer overnight. Inside prison, Ryo wasn't just a criminal, he was treated like a monster. Even the warden made that clear, shaving Ryo's head by force before tossing him into a cell. When he arrived, the inmates greeted him with fake smiles and applause. They even threw a garland around his neck like he was some kind of hero. But it was a setup. The moment the act ended, they beat him nearly to death. Broken and barely breathing, Ryo was saved by a quiet inmate named Kohei. He covered Ryo's battered body and cleaned his wounds. Kohei had been bullied too, and he knew the pain. But their brief peace was only a pause in the storm. Not long after, the warden stormed in holding a stun device. He labeled Ryo a wild animal and shocked him repeatedly, showing no restraint. From that day forward, prison turned into a nightmare. Every moment was filled with pain and fear. 2 months passed. Then Ryo received a visit from his sister, Natsumi. But she was no longer the timid girl he remembered. Her look was bold, her attitude cold. Without wasting time, she told him the truth. Her memory of that night was blurry, but she believed Ryo killed their parents because of years of abuse they both endured. Since the murder, Natsumi's life had fallen apart. She was kicked out of school and couldn't focus on anything. Now, she had made up her mind. She was leaving town to start fresh, taking a job as a nightclub hostess, a job that didn't ask for grades or a future. Before walking away, she told Ryo she never wanted to see him again. Crushed by her words, Ryo pleaded with her not to go down that road. But her mind was made up. She was done. After Natsumi walked away, Ryo fell deeper into despair. He blamed himself for everything. He stopped fighting back. The beatings got worse, but he no longer cared. His body grew weaker. His will to live was fading fast. Then someone stepped in. A senior inmate named Kenji Kirikawa, once a respected karate instructor, had just been transferred from an adult prison. His job was clear: to train young inmates to protect themselves. Kenji found Ryo barely hanging on, still broken from the constant abuse. Without wasting time, he started teaching Ryo a deadly strike technique. Kenji was tough on the outside, but behind his strict face, he saw something in Ryo. Not a monster, just a boy stuck in the wrong place, fighting to survive. Not long after, Kenji dragged Ryo into the prison's underground fight arena. It was a brutal test. Ryo was forced to face the toughest inmate behind bars. At first, he struggled. The opponent was faster, stronger, and more skilled. But then Ryo used the deadly technique Kenji had taught him and took the fighter down in one clean strike. The win was clear, but the cost was high. The attack was too brutal. Ryo knocked the man out cold, and the guards responded with harsh punishment. He was thrown into solitary. Not only that, a metal gag was also locked onto his mouth, making it nearly impossible to eat or drink. He was sentenced to 2 weeks in complete isolation. Then, through the cell wall, Kenji's voice cut through. He ordered Ryo to keep training, no excuses. He showed no sympathy, but behind the cold words, Kenji was building something. He wanted to mold Ryo into a fighter, someone no one would ever push around again. From that moment, Ryo became Kenji's student. For a full month, he trained nonstop. Day by day, he got stronger, sharper, more focused. And when he was ready, he didn't hold back. One by one, he hunted down every inmate who had tormented him or hurt Kohei. His payback was brutal and unstoppable. At that moment, what began as survival had now become something else. A transformation forged in blood, betrayal, and pain. This wasn't redemption. This was a rebirth. This was Shama. As Ryo's violent rise continued, it set off alarms among the prison staff. The warden saw him as a growing threat and decided he had to be stopped. He gave a direct order to Kenji, "Take down your own student." Kenji was outraged. He refused, but the warden held the upper hand. He threatened to extend Kenji's sentence, one already earned for assassinating a prime minister. Kenji wanted freedom more than anything. Cornered with no way out, he finally gave in. The fight was set. Kenji stepped into the arena to face Ryo. But when it came time to strike, he couldn't do it. Ryo wasn't just a student anymore. He had become like a son. Kenji dropped his guard. The price for that choice was brutal. He was immediately shipped off to the most violent prison in all of Asia. When Ryo learned what happened, he snapped. Fueled by rage and betrayal, he stormed into the warden's office and ended the man's life. 5 years later, Ryo was a free man, but his life was far from what he once imagined. His dream of becoming a professional karate athlete was long gone. Instead, he was stuck working as a male escort for rich women. The boy who once trained to bring honor to his family now sat alone, watching matches on TV, haunted by a future that slipped away. A client crossed the line. She mocked him, bringing up the darkest part of his past, the murder of his parents. The insult sent Ryo into a rage. He snapped, beat the woman, and stormed out into the streets, driven by a single goal: find his sister, Natsumi. For 3 years, Ryo had moved from city to city, chasing any trace of her. He wanted to rebuild their lives, to start over. That night, he spotted a hostess who looked just like her. But the name she gave wasn't Natsumi, it was Megumi. As he turned to leave, a gang of thugs ambushed him, looking for trouble. Ryo didn't hesitate. He took them down one by one, using the deadly skills he had mastered in prison. Then, without looking back, he escaped toward a boxing arena, ready for whatever came next. Unfortunately, Ryo had walked straight into a trap. The gang he just fought wasn't random. Their leader owned the boxing arena. With no escape in sight, Ryo was forced to fight once again, but this time it wasn't for sport. It was for survival. Outnumbered and surrounded, Ryo was quickly overwhelmed. The gang beat him down in front of the crowd, leaving him unconscious in the center of the ring. Then came the final blow. A giant screen flashed his darkest secret, his job as a male escort. The audience roared with laughter, stripping away what little pride he had left. Broken and humiliated, Ryo was dragged out and dumped like trash. But just like before, Kohei showed up when no one else would. The very next day, He returned to the arena, this time with Ryo at his side, burning with fury. Together, they tore through the gang. Ryo fought like a man with nothing to lose, crushing every enemy in his path. Not long after the chaos, a man named Naoto Yamazaki stepped into the arena. He was a professional karate fighter and one of the arena's owners. But instead of seeking revenge, Yamazaki did something unexpected. Like Ryo, he had once trained under Kenji Kirikawa. Seeing potential in Ryo, he offered him a spot at his dojo and a chance to compete in a major free fight tournament. But before Ryo could respond, a new challenger appeared. Dressed in traditional martial arts attire, Kensuke Mochizuki entered the scene. A legendary karate master, Kensuke didn't speak. He simply demonstrated his power, defeating Yamazaki in front of his own students and making a clear statement.
Hajime! Yeah!
Behind the display was a deeper conflict. Kensuke and Yamazaki were both major names in the karate world, but they were now rivals. Yamazaki wanted to break away from the main organization, something Kensuke wouldn't allow. So Kensuke made his move. He challenged Yamazaki to fight Ryo. If Yamazaki lost, Ryo would be forced to fight in the tournament under Kensuke's banner. Both men accepted the challenge without hesitation. The fight was fast and fierce. Drawing on the raw violence he had endured in prison, Ryo overpowered Yamazaki with ease. While Yamazaki gave it everything he had, Ryo barely broke a sweat. With that win, Ryo was officially entered into the tournament, this time under Kensuke's banner. But behind the offer was a hidden agenda. Kensuke had no real loyalty to Ryo. He planned to use him as a tool to boost his school's fame, then cast him aside, making way for his favorite student, Sugawara, to take the spotlight. While unaware of the betrayal brewing behind the scenes, Ryo kept pushing forward. He trained relentlessly, with Kohei by his side and support from Megumi, who had become his partner. But during one routine practice, everything changed. Ryo was blindsided by a surprise attack, and the man behind was Kenji Kirikawa, freshly released from prison. At first, Ryo was frustrated by Kenji's sudden return, but deep down he was relieved. His mentor was back, and with the tournament just days away, they wasted no time. Kenji jumped back into his role, pushing Ryo harder than ever to help him reach his dream of becoming a professional karate fighter. Then came the tournament. Ryo's first opponent was a top Muay Thai fighter. But just before the match, Kensuke's team played a news report exposing Ryo's violent past. The crowd turned on him instantly. It was all part of Kensuke's plan to damage Ryo's image and boost his own brand. Now seen as a criminal, Ryo faced the ring under a wave of boos and insults. But he stayed focused. He had fought through worse. The match began, and Ryo was caught off guard by a powerful blow that sent him crashing down. Dazed, but not broken, he forced himself to stand. With grit and instinct, he pushed his opponent out of the ring just before the round ended. He was barely conscious, but the bell saved him. From the crowd, Megumi watched with worry while Kenji shouted sharp instructions to keep Ryo in the fight. As the second round kicked off, Ryo was still struggling to recover. But when his opponent dropped his guard, Ryo struck, landing a powerful kick straight from Kenji's training. He won the match, but the victory was short-lived. Kensuke stepped in and overturned the result, claiming the opponent had been left permanently blind. Even though serious injuries were part of the sport and the rules allowed it, Kensuke used the excuse to disqualify Ryo. Furious, Ryo could hardly believe the injustice. After the fight, Kenji confronted Kensuke, demanding answers. But Kensuke dodged every question, refusing to take responsibility. Then came the shocking truth. Years earlier, Kensuke had framed Kenji, getting him locked away to eliminate a rising rival. The betrayal hit hard. Kenji lost control. He attacked Kensuke on the spot, unleashing years of rage, and took him down without hesitation. Meanwhile, Ryo was still locked in on one goal, winning the tournament and proving he deserved his place. But with time running out, he made a bold and dangerous move. One night, he kidnapped a woman who turned out to be the girlfriend of Sugawara, Kensuke's top fighter. Then, Ryo called Sugawara and faked a threat on her life, all to spark fury and drag him into a fight. The trap worked. Sugawara snapped. From that moment, his focus narrowed to one thing, taking Ryo down. At first, Kensuke refused to allow the match. But after remembering his own public defeat by Kenji, his mindset shifted. He gave Sugawara the green light, with one order: finish Ryo in the ring. A loss for Ryo would also be a blow to Kenji's legacy. Knowing the stakes, Ryo returned to Kenji and asked for one final shot at training. He made it clear this could be his last chance to win and to bring honor back to his family's name. Kenji didn't hold back. He put Ryo through brutal, unforgiving drills, including pull-ups from the top of a 200-meter tower, pushing him to his absolute limit. As part of his brutal training, Ryo began picking fights with construction workers, believing their strength could help push him past his limits. But one session went horribly wrong. In the chaos, a worker accidentally slashed Megumi across the stomach. Ryo froze in shock, his focus shattered. While he rushed to help her, the worker struck back, shattering his arm. The injury was severe and came at the worst time, putting his upcoming fight against Sugawara in serious danger. Angry and overwhelmed, Ryo snapped. He turned on Megumi, blaming her for getting in the way. Kohei had seen enough. He called Ryo out for always pointing fingers and never owning his mistakes. Kenji didn't say much, but he took control. He dragged Ryo deep into the forest and gave him a clear message: stop making excuses and toughen up, or lose everything. In the forest, Kenji pushed Ryo to his limit physically and mentally. He taught him how to face pain head-on and rebuild his inner strength. He reminded Ryo why he had done the unthinkable years ago, to protect Natsumi from the abuse they both suffered. It wasn't madness, it was survival. Kenji warned him not to live with regret, saying that regret only means you never fully believed in your choice. Through punishing training, Ryo learned to fight through the pain, even with a broken arm. His recovery moved faster than anyone expected. And on that same day, a wave of hope returned. Megumi brought news. She had found Natsumi. It was revealed that Natsumi had been living in a rehab center, battling mental illness. For 3 long years, she had suffered in silence, lost in depression and memory loss. When Ryo finally stood before her, the moment he had waited for, she didn't recognize him. It crushed him. Not long after, 2 hospital workers accused Ryo of stealing painkillers. In an instant, something inside him snapped, his left eye turned red, and he launched into a brutal assault. That moment confirmed a dark truth. Ryo suffered from a deep psychological condition. When his left eye turned red, he lost control, driven by rage and trauma buried since the night he killed his parents. The red eye wasn't just a symptom. It was the return of the beast inside him. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for, the showdown between Ryo and Sugawara. The tension was high. Ryo's arm still hadn't fully healed, but he didn't care. He had been pushed past pain. Kenji's training had sharpened him into a fighter ready for anything. And with his red eye glowing, it was clear Ryo had already entered his most dangerous state. The fight opened with explosive energy, but Sugawara quickly took control. He landed a punishing string of blows, knocking Ryo down hard in the first round. Somewhere far from the ring, Megumi and Natsumi sat together, watching every second unfold on the screen. As Ryo collapsed in the ring, something snapped inside Natsumi. Her mind suddenly cleared, and buried memories came rushing back. The truth surfaced: Ryo hadn't killed their parents. It was Natsumi in a dissociative state. Ryo had taken the fall to protect her, carrying the weight of a crime he never committed. Back in the arena, Ryo pulled himself up again. This fight wasn't just about winning, it was about reclaiming his name. He was fighting to end the years of abuse, humiliation, and pain he had suffered. The second round kicked off, and the battle reached new intensity. As the match neared its end, Sugawara once again brought Ryo down with a crushing blow. But it came at a heavy cost. The damage from striking Ryo's hardened body had shattered Sugawara's bones. Just as victory was about to be declared in Sugawara's favor, Ryo rose again, bloody but still standing. The arena froze. Sugawara, Kensuke, the entire crowd. No one could believe what they were seeing. Ryo stood tall in the center of the ring, soaked in blood but unfazed by pain. The film ends with a powerful image, leaving one clear question: what happens next? So the moral of the story is, never train so hard that your body turns into a weapon. People will just disqualify you for being too effective at fighting.